I was 7 years old. My older brother Julio and I were walking home one evening with our older cousins. And when I say walking home, I don't mean down a paved suburban street with lit street lamps. Home was with our aunt and uncle, and home was the farm and the rural countryside of Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico. We had to cut through the woods and fields, miles of it to get to the main dirt road. From there, it was another 2 miles before we reached the farm. "I'm tired," I complained. I didn't want to walk anymore. My brother scoffed, and our older cousin Martin laughed. "Well, none of us are carrying you. You fall behind, you get left behind. And the lady will grab you and take you to her home and keep you there forever," he told me, giving me a shove. I pushed him, frowning. "What lady?" I asked, brows furrowed. Jose smirked. "The lady who lives in the woods, stupid." My brother Julio snickered. "That's just a story, man. She's not real." Martin shrugged, still smiling slyly. "Well, whatever you say." He turned to me. "But I'm telling you, you fall behind. We're leaving you behind, man." "Shut up," I snapped. But the thought of a lady stuck with me, like an itch, and I couldn't get rid of it. And as the sun went further down and down, pulling the shadows from between the trees, I felt more and more nervous. I stuck close to Julio, nearly wanting to take his hand, but not wanting to look like a baby at the same time. So, I asked him after a little while, eyeing the tall grass around us, "What? My foot slipped on a rock. What does this lady look like?" Our cousin Rosa rolled her eyes, stepping over a rotted log. We were heading downhill, and the ground was becoming damp. "There is no lady, mijo. Martin is just messing with you." But I wanted to know. "But what does she look like?" I insisted. "Well," Martin began, "no one really knows." Rosa sighed, walking further ahead and muttering under her breath. Martin ignored her and continued. "Some people think she's an old witch who lives all alone, that she killed her husband and drowned her children, that she kept their bones to do spells and shit." Rosa snorted loudly. "But most say that it is a woman who got lost and died in Marico haunts it, looking for people to join her because she's so lonely." Julio clicked his tongue disdainfully. "You're not even telling it right, man. That's not how the story goes," he said. "Listen, it was a girl, right? She was going to get married, but instead she drowned herself on the day of her wedding. No one ever found the body, so if no one ever found the body, how the hell do you know she drowned?" Martin interrupted. This started an argument between the two of them, swapping stories and changing events left and right, and neither could tell me what she looked like. Eventually, I grew bored and hurried to catch up to Rosa, several feet ahead of us. Without looking, she reached back to take hold of my hand. "Come on, it's not much further to the main road. We just have to cross the stream up ahead." Martin and Julio were just still arguing behind us when the sky opened up and it began to rain. And I mean pour. Rosa cursed. "Hurry up," she called, and my brother and Martin came running up behind us. We were all jogging through the grass now, slipping on the gathering mud and not trying to fall down the hill. The rain made it difficult to see, but I knew we were close to home by now. Rosa let go of my hand as we neared it, and Julio hurried ahead of me. The stream was at the bottom of the ravine, about 10 feet across, and not particularly deep. Still, the water was chilly and reached up to my thighs. We were all soaked. My foot slipped on a rock, and I felt myself dip backwards, flailing. Martin shouted something, and then everything was muffled as my head went under. It was only for a second, maybe 2, and then a hand gripped my arm, pulling me back up to standing again. I coughed and spat water out of my mouth. Some had gone up my nose. I blinked and looked up. "Martin?" The words shriveled up on my tongue. A woman stood over me. She was dressed in an old white patterned dress. She had a long black hair, heavy with water. She was soaked through, but there was something not quite right about her skin, and her hand wrapped around my arm was freezing, cold, like nothing I've ever felt before. She stared down at me. I noticed her eyes, flat, pale, dead eyes. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out, just my face contorting in soundless fright. Then Martin was yelling, and I yanked myself away from this cold, dead thing scrambling and stumbling out of the water. We were all running now, soaked and muddy, but scared shitless. And just for a brief moment, I turned and looked back over my shoulder. She was there, standing in the rain, filled stream, staring after us, after me, with those dead eyes, her lank hair plastered to her head and shoulders. I lost sight of her between the trees. We nearly fell into the road, slipping in the mud and panting. The rain was coming down in warm sheets. We kept running. We didn't stop until the house was in sight. My right arm, the arm the lady had touched, felt chilled. We didn't talk about the lady for a long time, my cousins and I made sure to avoid crossing that stream whenever possible, and never in the rain. Years later, I would wonder if we'd really seen her at all, or if it had just been a local woman caught in the rain like us. But every time it rains, my right arm turns just a little numb and aches just a bit before the skies open, almost as if it's to make sure I don't forget about the woman.